And I found myself with my kids and my pets and everybody else telling them to be nice on a regular basis.
Right.
It seemed like that was like my go-to phrase. And so yeah, I commissioned out somebody to had an idea for the artwork that I wanted to do for it, and commissioned that out and just kind of adopted that as a slogan, and feel like, especially in this day and age, just a good reminder to people it never hurts to be nice.
I tell you what, man, the world. Hey guys, Keith with KnifeJoy here. We are so glad that you're joining us today. We have another special episode where we have Jonathan Mcnees with us today, who is a custom knife maker and designer. And Jonathan, welcome to the show.
Thanks. I appreciate you having me.
Absolutely, man. It's always fun to kind of put names and faces when we've seen your product. And I know at KnifeJoy we've had several of your knives in, and just really love that product. I know our audience loves it as well, and they'll love getting to know you too. So I always like to start off with just giving you the microphone. Tell us a little bit about yourself, history, how you got into knives, and just kind of got to where you are today.
Gotcha. Yeah, well, as you can probably tell from the accent, I'm a country boy, so knives have just kind of always been part of my life. I've joked before that I think I was just born loving knives. Like, I mean, I literally can't remember like a time something sparked my interest, and it was like, oh, I like knives. Like, it's just literally always been there as long as I can remember. So,
That's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, it was, growing up in the South, my dad, granddad always had an old timer or something in their pocket, and just, it was just every man carried a knife. That was just the way it was.
Right.
Yeah, it was just always, it never really was a pivotal moment. It was just always that way. But, so yeah, I grew up in the South, Mississippi, Alabama. Did, nothing too crazy, a little bit of construction and stuff. And then went into the Marine Corps. Spent 4 years in the Marine Corps, got out, did a little more work, went to school, did physical therapy for a few years. And in that point was where I kind of started really getting the itch to make a knife. I guess I'd kind of, back in my head, wanted to make a knife. I'd made like wooden knives with my dad and stuff when I was a kid, and, that kind of stuff. But I'd never really gotten into, just mainly because I didn't know anything about it. Like, I mean, I grew up, of course, pre-internet. And so, like, I didn't go and search out. I lived out in the middle of nowhere. I didn't really have the knowledge in front of us the way we do today. So the time frame when I got out of the Marine Corps and was working and doing physical therapy, that's when I started getting on the internet and knife forums and stuff, and I started seeing like, hey, like, guys are actually doing this, like, in their garage or in their shops, like, and so I just absolutely just started soaking in all of it that I possibly could. And then went back on an old, I had a shop that I could work in, thankfully, at the house, that just, I knew I wanted to do something. I wasn't sure what I was going to do with it when I built it. And knives, of course, were in the back of my mind. But I told my wife one day, I was like, man, we'll go back here and try to make a knife. And I wouldn't call it a knife, but we did make something a little bit pointy, at least, just on an old, like, Harbor Freight, crappy grinder thing. And then did enough of that to realize that I wanted something a little bit better. So I built myself a franking grinder. It was awful, but I ground several hundred knives on that thing before I actually bought myself a proper grinder. So, and then it just escalated from there. I mean, I've been hooked ever since. So
yeah,
that was in 2008. I think was when I first went back to the shop and decided to give it a whirl.
Do you have any of those first knives like hanging on the wall or anything?
There's a couple of them here somewhere. I don't have any of them handy, but believe me, they're like primitive man's flint knapping probably looks better. It's bad. I didn't even know that. And I'm kind of the type to jump in rather than like research, like get everything laid out perfectly. I get a rough idea and just kind of dive in. So, like, I dove in with grinding steel. It was mild steel. It couldn't even be hardened. And, like, I'm trying to heat treat it and wondering why it's not holding an edge. And then go back then and figure out what I did wrong and just kind of forge ahead and bump into the wall and then figure out the problem. But probably should have done a little more research to start with.
Well, that hands-on. That's it. In the South, we call it baptism by fire, right? Just get in there and figure it out, So, yeah. I understand. That's cool. So, was there a certain type of style that you knew you wanted to do when you started out, or a certain type of
Um,
style now you kind of lean towards?
yeah, I mean, well, tactical folders are really what kind. I mean, I love fixed blades. So I think I actually remember some of the first fixed blades that I saw that were like not just your standard, Buck, Gerber, the big
Mhm.
companies and stuff. The first custom type or smaller production company knife I think I remember really catching my eye were Strider fixed blades. Um, and I saw those and I was like, oh wow, this is not Walmart. So uh, those
Right.
type, I mean, the tactical stuff, and then that led into the tactical folders, of course, and that was, so this was around 2000 when I was first seeing them, and then started making those 2007, 2008, and tactical folders were they still absolutely booming at the time. And so,
Right.
especially actually big beefy overbuilt folders were in at the time. And some of
Huh.
that probably still kind of shines through in some of my folder design stuff. I tend to build them a little beefier and stuff than probably some of the guys that started in the last few years because that was the trend, and I guess it stuck with me.
That got, but still enough that it's a comfortable everyday carry, right?
Oh yeah, definitely. No, I don't, I've never
Yeah.
liked, and that was one thing. I was in the big beefy knives being built back then, and I loved the way it looked. But then I would look at the edge, and I was like, "This thing's an axe like this. That's
Yeah.
not cool." So yeah, as far as like the overall construction, I like them to be a little bit on the beef side, but I've always been a believer in a nice thin edge, and and partially because you should do your heat treat right and trust it. So if you do,
Sure.
you should be able to have a pretty thin edge on the steel. So
Yeah. Gotcha. Yeah. So when you first started off doing these, you were working, or and that you did this on the side, or you knew you were
yes,
getting
very
into it
much.
because you were just out of the Marines, or okay.
Yeah, no, I was. I'd already gotten out of the Marine Corps and worked a few years and gone back to school and gotten a degree to do physical therapy and was working doing that. And I started doing it in the afternoons and weekends. And for I don't know how many years, for several years there, every bit of my free time was spent. I would get home in the afternoon and from work, and I would immediately go back to the shop and work till 7, 8 o'clock at night, and then come up and usually had paperwork to finish from my work day, and go to bed, get up, do the same thing the next day, Saturday and Sunday. I don't know how my wife put up with it and stayed with me because like I literally just lived in the shop the whole time. So
Yeah.
once I switched to full time, which was I decided with my wife's surprisingly not just her blessing, but her actual push. She one year at Blade Show, we were getting ready to set up for the show, and there were people already standing at the table wanting to buy stuff before the doors were open,
Oh
and
wow.
before we even got the table set up. And so that was the year that she was, which is great. I know tons of other makers, have experienced that, or even the night before the show. But like that was kind of like the tipping point where my wife was like, "Yeah, it's time. You need to do this for
Yeah. Yeah. You're onto something here.
yeah,
You got
yeah.
an
So
audience waiting on you.
I,
When was that?
I want to say it was either 2015 or 16. She's also my timeline. I can't remember. I just
I
go.
hear
I
you, man.
can't. I always have to ask her what year did I. I think it was. I think I officially went full time in 2016. I think is right. And
Yes.
and quit my day job and look back. So I kept my license for a couple of years as a kind of a backup, and then I was like, decided no, I'm not going back. This is this knives are bust. So that's all I've done since.
Oh, that's awesome. It's a good story to hear that. It's been passionate time building up and knowing what you want to do and all that. I'll tell you though, I've got like a pulled muscle somewhere here. I can't, you might can help me out on that one
You
still
wouldn't
too.
want me to do therapy on you for sure anymore. I'm way out of the game. License has been expired for years now.
No, I hear you. Yeah, no, I was just joking with you. But so you've done mostly, you've done custom knives, right? So
Yeah.
that's been kind of your claim to fame, and but you're making some transition with it, and I understand maybe you're working on new shop, but trying to move a little bit more into production too. What's
Yeah.
that? How'd that come about?
I really just kind of reached the point where I mean I was happy doing the customs and stuff, but along with making knives, also really kind of like the business side of stuff. Not big on crunching numbers like the accounting side, but just the overall business side of it. I've always liked wheeling and dealing and just doing, so I just realize that there's only so much that you can do as a one-man shop. I mean, you can
Right.
build really nice stuff and you can sell it and get good prices for it, but you're still limited. You're one person, so you're just
Right.
and there's nothing wrong with that. Some people absolutely are happy to just be able to go work by themselves and do their thing. That's awesome. I just had the itch to try to actually grow up well, and so some of my focus has shifted now to growing a business as well as building a business as well as building knives, I guess you'd say. So I think it's been almost right at 2 years ago, give or take, that I hired my first actual employee. Now I had hired my son came to work for me some, and my daughter off and on alternately. I bought a laser and started doing some work on that, and they were coming in and helping me do some of the laser work while I was still building customs and things like that.
That's cool.
My first actual like full-time employee to actually help me build knives was again, I'm horrible with time frames. It all runs together.
No,
I want to say it was about 2 years ago, and basically hired him to help me start building the Mac 2s that we're making now. So for quite a while there, it was mostly him building them. I was still building customs, so I'd be over my bench building customs, and he'd be back behind me at his bench building the Mac 2s, which it's one of those things where they fall in that category. It's kind of hard to know what to call them. I don't really consider them mid-techs at this point, especially, but more of like small batch production.
Okay.
So, and then we've just kind of grown until now we've built a much bigger shop, bought a CNC. We got more employees. I've got two full-time employees and 3 part-time employees, I think. And then
growing.
Yeah, we're definitely trying, for sure. And what we've been doing up to this point with the production stuff is very, very important to me to keep everything made in the U.S. I did not want to outsource stuff to other countries, any of the work. So
that's
I've
awesome.
used U.S. OEM shops, which is not easy. It's very, very difficult to piece together a network that can get stuff, and we've run into time delays and just like especially over the last couple of years. I mean, we decided to run a production company, basically right before COVID happened, and supply chain issues and all that. So horrible timing as far as that goes. But we've struggled and made it to the point that now we have a one mill up in house now, and we're going to start to pull a whole lot more of the processes in house, and then just kind of continue to grow it from there. So it's
great, man. Yeah. So starting off knowing, like you said, you can only do in customs, you can only do as many as you can make. You start to hit that ceiling, and you got to make a choice because you got to make a living too, right? So are the knives just going to keep getting more expensive, or are you going to go production and do more knives? And you kind of, from a business standpoint, have to start making those those decisions. So I certainly understand that. Will you still do any customs at all, or are you going to be mostly production?
Yes, I still plan. I haven't for the last several months, just because we're very much in kind of the building stage. We're trying to get all the processes worked out so that my guys that are doing most of the work on the production stuff, we've got processes in place, that they can do it without having to have a whole lot of guidance from me. Once I reach that point, I feel like we're kind of good and I don't have to, help as much with that. Then I plan to drop back and do, some customs, not like I used to. I mean, I was pretty high volume as a custom maker. Like I pumped out quite a few for just a one-man shop, but I don't really have any desire to go back to that. But definitely want to still do some, because there's always that creative itch where I just need to, actually get hands on and make something. So
yeah, that makes sense. I mean, when you're doing something that you love, but then you have to try to meet these volume, like you said, you went full time and not having a job, you're trying to crank it out, to provide for your family, and then all of a sudden, this thing that you really love becomes work because you're trying to turn out as many, but it doesn't become fun anymore. Right. So now it makes sense to me. You're trying to say, okay, well, let me get this base covered, get some really good quality knives that we can replicate out there, get some of that obligation met. Now I can say, okay, well, I can do customs when I want to. I don't have the obligation of that volume, and it becomes a creative, fun thing
Right.
again, right? Is that what you're saying? It sounds like.
Absolutely. And I feel like they kind of, building some customs at least occasionally will help with the production line and vice versa. They kind of feed each other a little bit. So,
Sure.
so I think that will help too. But yeah, it's been weird. Honestly, not not actually just building customs. I think of the last ones I built were last year before the Vegas show, before the USN show, and mainly because we came back from that show, and literally the Monday after that show we started moving into the new shop, and so it's been trying to get everything up and running as far as processes. Then a month or two after that, we had the CNC delivered. We've been working on getting it up and running and learning all that because I knew absolutely nothing about it when it got delivered. So it's been a pretty all my effort and energy has been going towards all that, and just hadn't been any left for building handmade stuff at the moment.
Right, but it's going well. You happy with the progress?
Yes, I am. I'm very happy with it. It's sitting out there running, doing some of the new milled patterns on the Mac 2s that we've been posting right now. We're, like I said, we're working on pulling more of the processes in house, starting with like laser cut blanks and putting them on the machine and going from there. So, yeah.
So moving away from using less and less using those OEM providers, the outsource, and bringing more and more of it as you can into your shop. I think that's cool too. That's great.
It is.
I like the term.
I honestly have a little bit of a mixed feelings about that, because one of the things I've always liked about the way we've been doing things is if you stop and think about all of the different people that one person buying one knife, all the different people that touches, like all the different, like me and all the people, all of my employees and their families. And then if you start looking at all the different shops that it touches along the way, from heat treat to blade grinding to milling to, double disc lapping, like it's tons of different people that end up being affected by that knife or that batch of knife. Like it's a ripple effect that goes out, and it's I've always been really proud that we were to think of like, hey, we're actually in some way where these other shops also be able to stay in business and do their thing. So, and we're still going to be using other stuff for, like I said, some of the stuff like laser cutting and double disc and stuff like that. So I very much like the thought of doing more of it in house, and it gives me way more control. But I also have enjoyed the thought of the fact that it affects our community, our branches out from right in your community all the way out to the whole country. So.
Yeah, that's a cool philosophy. It's helping to create jobs and keeping people at work, and everybody's got their piece to play. So that's cool too. And keeping it in the U.S., I like that. You said something a minute ago. I like that term. I haven't heard that in the knife world. Maybe it's a thing I haven't heard, but the small batch production. I'm a bourbon guy, so I hear small batch all the time, but I haven't heard it in the knife world before.
Yeah,
that's kind of cool.
I think I've heard other people say it. I don't think I was smart enough to coin the phrase, but yeah, it's the closest thing that I can think, because you can't really deny that it's production, because we're cranking out things that are virtually the same, from one to the next, and it's multiple people working on it. It's not one person sitting there taking the parts off of the CNC and then building the knife. I've got several different employees that all touch every single knife. So I can't imagine calling it anything but production, but we're also not cranking out thousands of them a week either. So
right.
And somewhere in there.
Yeah, somewhere in the middle on those, and it's hard to find that line. Everybody calls it a little bit different. Some people think of production as if it's gone all outsourced and you're just the designer of it, and some people think of it as there's this semi kind of custom that when you're making it in your own shop and all that kind of stuff. So everybody's got their own way of looking at it, but I think I think our audience knows what you mean there. Tell me a little bit about the Be Nice. I've seen that on the logo. How'd that come about?
Yeah. So I just. For one thing, I guess it kind of goes back to the root of, I feel like that knife makers in particular have kind of gotten the reputation over the years of being kind of old, crusty guys that don't really like to be talked to, and we hermits that stay in our shops, and we occasionally drag ourselves out to a show and sell some knives, and people, literally people will email me and stuff or send me a message, and you can tell they're like timid or like apologetic, like, hey, I'm sorry to bother you. And I'm like, it shouldn't be that way. It's fine, to each his own. Some people's personalities just, aren't outgoing, but like, I don't really like the thought of, oh, I need to tell the person that made my knife that it's got a problem or whatever, and
Right.
like they're afraid they're going to get their head bitten off because they had to approach the maker about something, and that's just I don't like that. And I found
Gotcha.
myself with my kids and my pets and everybody else telling them to be nice on a regular basis.
Right.
It seemed like that was like my go-to phrase, and so yeah, I commissioned out somebody to had an idea for the artwork that I wanted to do for it, and commissioned that out and just kind of adopted that as a slogan, and feel like, especially in this day and age, just a good reminder to people it never hurts to be nice.
I tell you what, man, the world could use a lot more being nice. That's for sure. I saw that. And I was like, man, that's spot on too. And it is like you're saying, it's kind of a hard industry. It's kind of a little
Yeah.
leans on the harder core. So to kind of see that, and definitely, your look and feel still has an edge to it, which is cool because you got this edge, but then you've got kind of this, hey, be nice. We can be who we are, but still be nice to everybody. So I thought that was cool.
Absolutely. Yeah. Of course, the logo with a skull, knife through a skull, kind of leaves the implied, or else.
Right. Yeah. There's some of that too. Right. Yeah. I saw that. Yeah. I was like, you see, you maybe watch some zombie shows,
Yeah.
So, yeah. But no, but yeah, it's a cool piece. So, man, I appreciate you spending time with us today. Is there anything else that you'd want to bring up or tell our audience about while you've got the mic?
I mean, we covered pretty good on the direction we're headed as far as the right now our main models we're producing it's the Mac 2 with a 3-inch and 3.5, which I think we just sent you guys some of the 3.5s, not just the other day. We're cool. We're trying to ramp up production on those. I know people are I don't want people to get the idea that we're intentionally holding back, holding back and trying to create demand, because we're literally, believe me, my guys are plenty stressed with me pushing them every day. We're trying to get them out there as fast as we possibly can, but we're kind of in a transition. Like I said, we're having to do some prototyping to be able to do the stuff in-house, and we're still using parts right now that we're done at some of the OEM shops, and we're getting ready to, hopefully, before we run out of those parts, be able to pick up and just keep the flow going so that we don't actually run out of parts, and we can transition from those to the parts in-house. And there's going to be a couple of changes coming to the knives along with that. So not ready to quite reveal all of those yet, but I think there's a couple of things that we're going to do a little bit different when we do it in-house that people are going to be really excited about. So
that's cool. We'll have to have you back on, and you can tell everybody here first.
Yeah, absolutely.
But no, yeah, that's cool. And I know what you're saying, man. Everybody, it's, you go in the lab and you get your head down, and the people don't hear from you for a bit, and they think something's going on. But so it's good to kind of clear that up too. So you guys are working hard, and we're looking forward to your knives coming in. Love working with you guys and being able to carry your brand there. So man, we really appreciate it.
I appreciate it too. You guys have been awesome.
Thank you. All right. For all of our listeners out there, appreciate you listening, and follow us on YouTube if you're not already. If you're seeing this on social, please follow us there as well. And I think, as Jonathan would say, be nice.
That's right. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.